So picture this, you're in the new Nether activity and on the expert difficulty. It's rough in there, right? You have no revive tokens left, you're the last guardian standing, just like you see that I am here, and that's all because your Stormtrooper Titan keeps running in head first and using up all the lives. Now Bungie, I don't know if it was a good idea to let these Stormtroopers in. I'm just kidding, you Titans are okay. So with no lives left, and with this insane Tormentor as the last boss that just runs you down, especially on expert difficulty, what can you do? You're most likely dead, right? That is where the true Shadow Clone army comes in, and all I do is just keep dropping my strand clones one after the other, and the Tormentor just doesn't know what to do with them. You can easily have 3 clones up at a time. I think I show somewhere in this gameplay where I have 5 up at one single time, and imagine if you had 2 or 3 hunters doing this together. You could probably see 10 clones up at a time. And what makes them even better now is the fact that we can leave them up in the air, and you might have overlooked that. Strand clones detonate when enemies get too close to them. So normally when those certain types of enemies would charge over at the strand clones, they would trigger that proximity detonation, right? And you'd lose out on the aggro that the strand clone takes from all the enemies. But now, since they're staying up in the air, we can take advantage of their entire lifespan, which is almost 15 seconds per clone. This is all made possible thanks to the new combo of the 2 aspects we can run together. That is Ascension and Threaded Spectre. And then we pair that with an exotic armor change that lets us stack 3 dodge abilities, or get our dodge back just after 3 kills alone, and you can also get it by just killing 1 major target. The Ascension aspect now works with all dodge related skills, and it also works with the mods that affect our dodge. So Ascension already applies Jolt to targets beneath it, if they're close enough. It now refunds our melee ability, thanks to the Gambler's Dodge that we have on, and it makes us Amplified. And of course, Amplified gives us that 15% damage reduction, and all of this while dropping strand clones wherever we use it. Amplified got its nice buff, right? And enemies have a harder time hitting you, and you get that flat 15% damage reduction when you're Amplified. And since you're Amplified, you can build the bolt charges with your weapons. So this wombo combo of dodge abilities that we're using, that alone is doing so much. Strand clone left on the battlefield every time you dodge. Melee coming back to you if it's near an enemy, jolting enemies if they're near, allowing you to stack bolt charges for extra damage, and giving you the amplified buff where it's harder for enemies to hit you and you get the 15% damage reduction. I say that all again just to be clear that this is a strong combo, and that's without taking into account all the mods and the fragments that we're going to be running with this build. So everything moving forward is built around getting that dodge ability back as quick as possible, and stacking some extra damage reduction to make the expert nether much easier for you. And I will say that this build performs even better in the new activity, because you have a couple different boons you can take that lets you get your class ability back even quicker. So when you end up getting to the 2nd and 3rd boss, if you take the class ability regen related boons, you will be able to use your Ascension, and since your class ability refunds so quickly, you'll be able to use Ascension a 2nd time before that strand clone is even out. And that's without killing anything, as long as you take those extra boons for class ability. So I basically already went over both aspects for you. We'll take Grapple as our grenade. It has a quick cooldown time, and when you use the Ascension ability in the air, you can then grapple out of that while all those enemies are shooting at your strand clone. Grapple right into them, hit them with that strong ability, kill whatever in front of you, and apply the Unravel debuff to everything. We'll also take Withering Blade. This just gives us 2 Stasis Shurikens, and when we use that Ascension near enemies, we get one of these back. Of course, take Gambler's Dodge, so dodging near an enemy fully refunds your melee ability, and I like Silence and Squall the Stasis Super with this. That way when I pick up an Orb of Power, I gain Frost Armor, and it's just a really good overall super in the Nether. For our fragments, we will take Facet of Hope still. When you have any elemental buff, like Amplified, your class ability recharges more quickly. It basically doubles the recharge rate of your class ability. This is really nice in boss encounters specifically, when you don't have enemies to kill sometimes to get your class ability back. Next we'll take Facet of Grace, and we're going to pair that with the Kvostov. This thing is still a monster, and it is a primary ammo weapon, and of course you all know how the bullets ricochet can kill everything in sight, and we're going to pair that with our exotic armor in a second. Next we'll take Facet of Purpose. So again, we pick up those Orbs of Power, we gain that Frost Armor, and remember Frost Armor got a buff this season up to like 6 point something% per stack, so I believe you go above 30% now with 5 stacks, which is some great damage reduction on top of everything else we're doing. Speaking of damage reduction, we will take Facet of Protection. When we're near those enemies while we're using our Ascension ability, we'll get that extra damage reduction from this, and that's increased when we're in our Prismatic form. We'll take Facet of Dawn, so when we're using those shurikens over and over, we're buffing our melees by 20% with Radiant. That did get knocked down to 20% this season from 25%, but you have 2 shurikens to be activating this. And again, we get our melee back when we ascend near something, so you're gonna have this up a lot. And it pairs nicely in our prismatic form. We'll also take Facet of Ruin. This slot is interchangeable. There's a lot of different options you can run here, but I still like the extra damage of stasis that I get here when I'm using my Silence and Squall, when I'm using my Withering Blades, and when I'm using my Hellfire Spike, which is my prismatic grenade. And between Kvostov alone and Facet of Grace, you're gonna have your Transcendence form up a lot. For the exotic armor piece, we're pairing this with Radiant Dance Machines, the RDMs. I've done a couple builds with these in the past, but Bungie changed this around where it says final blows with primary ammo weapons return dodge energy, which can overflow to create additional charges when full. Now in my testing, it takes 3 kills to get your dodge back, and these kills can be very spread out. I don't even know if there's an actual timer for these. If there is, it's like 10 seconds in between kills. It's pretty dang long. Also, if you kill one priority target, like a yellow bar wizard or something, you'll get 1 dodge back right away. And then if you already have your dodge ability and you kill 3 enemies, you'll get an extra stack of your dodge down below. And again, that can stack up to 3 times. So you can go into a boss encounter with 3 dodges available. And if you just space those out properly, that is roughly like 45 seconds of your strand clones being up off the bat if you just space them out. And then by the time your 3rd one runs out, you should be getting your dodge back for a 4th one, and that's without killing anything. And then again, like I said in the Nether, just make sure you stack class ability regen, because in boss encounters, that's huge. For mods on the build, on the helmet, it's just a kinetic siphon and a strand siphon for the weapons I'm using to create orbs of power. On the gauntlets, we'll take heavy-handed, so those shurikens can create orbs of power when they kill stuff, and then a focusing strike and a bolstering detonation. That way when we use our melee or grenade, we get class ability energy back. Again, this is mainly for boss encounters, so we can just cycle back to our class ability quicker. On the chest piece, take your damage reduction. It just helps your survivability. On my boots, I take the recuperation for a little bit of extra health on orb pickup, and then insulation and absolution. Insulation gives us class ability regen when we pick up an orb of power, and absolution also gives us all ability regen when we pick up an orb of power, mainly our class ability again. And then our class item will take powerful attraction, so when we do ascend, we automatically pick up orbs of power that are near us. We'll take a distribution, reduce all ability cooldowns when using your class ability near targets, and then Reaper. So when we do use that ascension, and we kill something afterwards with our weapon, we'll spawn an extra orb of power. Literally everything is built to keep that dodge up available. It's very easy in non-boss encounters, right? Because it's just kills. But when you're against a boss that has no enemies spawning in for a while, all of these little mods will help keep the dodge available. For artifact mods, I did have unraveling orbs on, so you pick up an orb of power, you get unraveling rounds. Doesn't really matter too much because your grapple grenade, when you grapple in and hit something, will apply the unravel debuff already. And then once you have the column unlocked where you get horde shuttle, you could take that as well. Damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns threadlings. Since you'll be unraveling things, and then you start shooting them with your weapon, it'll just spread threadlings and unravel throughout everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I've always wanted to be able to create so many clones in this game, and this is the first time that I've been able to do this. So I was actually very excited when making this build. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.